Huckleberry Finn, the great American novel. Since its release, it has been a topic of hot debate. What is it that sets it apart from other books of its era? We believe that the themes present in this book are not bound by time because they are themes that provide questions about human nature itself. One specific thing we'd like to talk about is religion.
Let's do a summary.
Okay.
In the beginning of the novel, Huck is in Missouri getting civilized by the widow and her sister Miss Watson. Huck is very rich due to an adventure he went on with his friend Tom Sawyer. He signs the money over to a judge to avoid it being stolen by his drunken, abusive father Pap. Pap soon kidnaps Huck and holds him prisoner in a cabin by the Mississippi River. He makes his escape, fakes his death, and travels down the river to a deserted island.
There, he finds Miss Watson's runaway slave Jim, and they begin an adventure together. They leave the island on a raft due to impending danger that they will eventually run into every obstacle imaginable. Just a few examples are thick fog, being run over by a steamboat, meeting criminals, staying with feuding families, being attacked by dogs, racism, and much, much more.
This adventure eventually turns into Huck and Tom trying to free Jim after he was sold by the criminals he met. But it turns out he was already freed by Mrs. Watson on her deathbed. Tom knew this the whole time and yet still made them carry out an elaborate plan.
Huck then goes off on his next adventure. Let's get into some quotes. The first quote up for discussion can be found in chapter 1 on the second page of the novel. The quote reads as follows. After supper, she got out her book and learned me about Moses and the bulrushers, and I was in a great sweat to find out all about him. But by and by, she let it out that Moses had been dead a considerable long time, so then I didn't care no more about him, because I don't take no stock in dead people. This quote shows how religion is something that Miss Watson tried to continuously force upon Huck, although unsuccessful.
One of the quotes concerning religion that I found said that now she got a start, and she went on and told me all about the good place. She said all about we have to go there was to go around and sing all day with a harp, forever and ever. So I didn't think much of it, but I never said so. I asked her if she reckoned Tom Sawyer would go there. She said not by a considerable sight. I was glad about that, because I wanted him and me to be together. This quote is interesting because it shows how ignorant and immature Huck is at this point in the novel. He doesn't understand what heaven or hell is because at this point in his development, he has a difficult time distinguishing the difference between good and evil. I believe this foreshadows the extreme highs and lows he will come to understand on his upcoming adventure with Jim.
A third quote from the text comes in chapter 26, page 131. When Huck is asked to swear that he is telling the truth, he narrates, "I see it were nothing but a dictionary, so I laid my hand in it and said it." This quote shows how despite trying to neglect religion, Huck is influenced by it and takes certain actions based on his belief. Huck beginning to acclimate religion comes along with him maturing and growing of age. Rather than coming up with reasons to believe religion is nonsensical, he shows that he is starting to believe in it.
The final quote in this presentation perfectly portrays the way Mark Twain satirized religion. He writes, "There was a Sunday school, you could have gone to it, and if you had gone to it, they'd have learnt you that people that act as I've been acting about that slave goes to everlasting fire." Mark Twain was a Christian. However, later in his life he became very critical of organized Christianity. What does this mean? Well, basically he doesn't believe that Jesus intended Christianity to become a set of rules. Instead, he believed in a personal relationship with God. He expressed this perfectly by saying, if Christ were here now, there is one thing he would not be, a Christian. In Huckleberry Finn, he expresses this frustration with what Christianity has become by portraying Huck's religious role models as hypocritical and somewhat brainwashed. Okay, that was interesting. But let's interpret some of the questions the theme of religion begs. Alright, you can ask the questions first.
How was Huck's initial view of religion different than his view later on in the novel?
Early in the novel, Huck would be preached to by the widow and we would get a look at his genuine reaction. Most of the time it would be a negative one. For example, he didn't want to learn about Moses because he was dead. I've heard some say that early in the novel Huck was an agnostic or atheist. However, I disagree. I don't think Huck was mature enough at this point in the novel to understand Christianity. I believe he had no opinion on it whatsoever until midway through the story. We can see him start to gravitate towards Christianity when he would not swear on the Bible but he would on the dictionary, and then towards the end when we saw him pray.
What influenced Huck's change in his view of religion?
I think the reason he ignored religion early on was because he saw the hypocrisy of society. He watched his adult contemporaries pray at church, then leave and beat slaves, abuse him, and lie. As a result of his society's behavior, he purposefully stayed ignorant to many important questions, including the questions regarding the existence of God. When he went on his adventure, he had the freedom to interpret reality for himself, and as evident by his actions, he chose to believe in God. So in conclusion, the main reason he became a Christian was because he was not forced to become a Christian.
Why did Twain choose to include the theme of religion in the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn?
I believe Twain wanted to express his criticisms of organized religion to a large scope of people. Even though he was a theist, he hated what Christianity had become, and he wanted to make a statement about it. He made the religious characters often come off as ignorant and just flat out dumb.
Alright, so now you ask me some questions.
How does Mark Twain attack religion?
Throughout the novel, Mark Twain satirized religion in a variety of ways, one of which is through his connotation of religion with negative or simple-minded characters. For example, on page 12 he says, "There is a cross in the left boot heel made with big nails to keep off the devil." We find out later that this is from the shoe of his drunken father. He shows here that being religious doesn't qualify a person to be better than any other person, despite popular belief at the time. Another way that Twain attacks religion is through Huck's opinion of the widow's religious habits. For example, he criticizes the way that she prays before every meal, and the way that she reads the script about dead people.
Does religion have an effect on Huck?
Religion had a great effect on Huck throughout Twain's novel. Countless times, Huck debated making certain decisions due to religion. A few examples of this is when initially he was asked to swear the truth on the book, he tells the reader that he wasn't going to if it was on the Bible. This shows how he believed that it was morally wrong to swear on the Bible, which is a sign of the effects of religion. Another example is when he was debating on whether or not to help free Jim, he comes to the conclusion by saying, "Alright then, I'll go to hell." Huck saying this shows the reader that religion was a major factor of his decision. Part of the reason why this quote is so significant is because Huck proves that he is willing to go to hell just to help Jim, and that the effect that religion has on Huck doesn't have as much magnitude as his relationship with Jim.
Do you think Huck will remain Christian throughout his future endeavors?
I do believe that he will carry his thieves' beliefs into the future. We've seen that throughout the novel he has progressed from one who finds religion insignificant to someone who accepts it. Part of the reason this development occurred is because of his experience in the real world. As he goes out west, he will meet more people, grow more relationships, and develop even further as a character. In effect, his ideas of religion will develop and evolve into something more than it has up until this point. Alright Joe, is that it? We done with this project?
Yeah, man, I think so.
No, man, you forgot to relate it to the real world. How'd you forget about that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we do have to do that. There has been a large amount of backlash to Trump's halt on refugees from 7 Muslim-majority countries. There have been huge protests condemning it. One man who doesn't see eye to eye with Trump is Chicago's Archbishop Blaise J. Cupich. He said this weekend proved to be a dark moment in U.S. history. He went on to say the executive order to turn away refugees and to close our nation to those, particularly Muslims, fleeing violence, oppression, and persecution is both contrary to Catholic and American values. Have we not reaped the disastrous decisions of those in the past who turned away others people fleeing violence, leaving certain ethnicities and religion marginalized and excluded? On an even higher level, Pope Francis warns against populist saviors after Trump's inauguration. So clearly the backlash in the Catholic Church has been strong.
Since September 11, 2001, Muslims have been targeted and stereotyped as terrorists and extremists. Radical Islamic groups such as Al-Qaeda and ISIS have continuously justified their actions to the fate of Islam, shaping the belief of onlookers. In response to these actions, President Trump made it one of his first actions of office to ban Muslims from entering the country to eliminate the threat he believes they have on us. On January 27th, he made an executive order to ban refugees from 7 countries for 120 days. These 7 countries include Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen, all of which have an extremely high Muslim population. This ban has been a major topic of debate, causing a lot of controversy amongst those with opposing views.
Many assume that atheism is growing at an astounding rate all around the world. If you were to make that assumption, you'd be dead wrong. What may be surprising to many of you is that recent studies predict that atheism is on a steep decline and will fall to 13% of the world's population by 2050. It's currently at 16%. But why is this? A major contributor is that non-religious people tend to have fewer children. Another contributor is that Christianity has exploded in China. China has been known to be the least religious country for a long time. However, with Christians growing quickly and now outnumbering members of the Communist Party, atheism is losing major ground.
As discussed earlier, Twain uses Huck's opinions to satirize religious rituals and practices. Huck makes fun of small-scale habits such as praying before meals and reading the Bible. As well as these, there are large-scale religious events in the real world, such as Ramadan, gathering millions of people to take place in practices such as prayer and fasting. According to IBT, over 14 million people attended the holy city of Mecca during the 16-day event, attracting world attention. To believe religion is nonsensical, he shows that he is starting to believe it. Boom! Let's get it.
Hey.
Let's get it.
Yes. Oh.
Hey, 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 bro.
Still recording?
Yeah.